Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Choose Your Character, the show where really we just watch my hair grow in 2 week periods. I can't believe there's so much of it. Anyway, this is actually not where we talk about my hair. This is where I interview members of the Norwalk Gamer Symphony Orchestra, and with me today, Nina, and I guess the right side. I even presented the right side. Nina, say hello to everyone.
Hello. This show isn't actually about Mike's hair. It's about my hair. No,
it's about Nina's hair.
So I'm Nina. Didn't really prepare how I'm going to introduce myself, but basically I joined the orchestra about a year ago. I know you're going to ask me about that, so I won't go into too much detail. But I mostly play violin for the orchestra, but I am primarily a pianist/keyboardist. As well as vocalist and a lot of other random little instruments.
Yeah, so let's jump right into it. You already preempted me. You're taking control of this show, and I want it back.
Sorry.
Because I rule this show with an iron fist. So cool. You already talked about the instruments you play. Let's talk a little bit about your gamer tag. So you already introduced yourself as Nina, and your gamer tag I have down below you is Tasteful Noodles. Do you want to talk just a little bit about the username Tasteful Noodles?
Yep. So basically, Noodles is an old nickname I have from way back when. It's a long story of starting with the same letter and stuff. And then when I was coming up with a new sort of online presence, I came up with Tasteful Noodles. You can kind of fill in the blanks on what that means on your own time.
That's right. And we talked about the instruments you play. You play violin, piano, keyboard, guitar, ukulele, a whole bunch of other stuff. What do you normally play within the orchestra, and what do you enjoy playing the most within the orchestra, if those are two different things?
I mean, so I haven't really been in the orchestra. I've only really been in 1.5 seasons, thanks to COVID. So it's mostly been violin because that's been kind of where the need has been. Sorry about the outside noise. But I also play piano/keyboard a little bit in the orchestra, and I haven't played anything else for the orchestra. But I mean, it's hard to pick a favorite. Violin isn't my strongest instrument, so it's kind of frustrating for me sometimes, but it's also I do enjoy learning and getting better at it as well. So
right. Is there any instrument that you play, or instrument that maybe you haven't played yet, that you would like to play within the orchestra when we get back together and start to play again?
Good question.
That's why
I have it listed in my Discord roles that I play penny whistle, which really isn't saying much because it's not that hard to play penny whistle, but that would be kind of fun. Or maybe more guitar. And generally it'd be nice to play more piano, but we'll see.
You looking to take over my guitar position? Looking to edge me out?
I'll join the guitar position.
I'll just be company, friends,
strumming in the back.
Are you thinking that shoot, I forget the movie name, but the gif of the guy strumming the banjo or whatever it is.
It's the El Dorado.
El Dorado, yeah. That's all I do in the back.
I love that gif. Yeah.
Cool. All right, so let's talk about the NGSO. How did you come to find the Norwalk Gamer Symphony Orchestra? You mentioned briefly that you've been with us for about a year, about a season and a half. How did you first find the orchestra?
Yeah, so it's kind of a weird story of an example of an actual effective use of Facebook advertising. So it was back in 2016 or 2017, back when the orchestra was really new, when I saw a sponsored Facebook ad, because I was living in Stamford at the time, and so it was just one town over, so I must have gotten targeted for it. And I saw this ad and I was like, what? Norwalk Gamer Symphony Orchestra? What is this? Seems kind of weird. And I clicked on it, and it was so early on that like the only videos up were like there was maybe like 5 people like in the video, and it was just kind of awkward, and like I didn't think much of it, but I thought it was cool because I love video game music, I love video games. But I also just didn't have a car, so like it wasn't really feasible for me to join at that time, and I was in college. I was just way too busy. But then when I graduated and got a full-time job, I was looking for some sort of hobby that would kind of bring that social aspect that I was missing after I graduated college. And I suddenly remembered, I was like, oh wait, what about that like gamer orchestra group that I saw like forever ago? And like since then I had seen some of the videos and stuff, like more recent concerts. I was like, that's kind of cool. So like I just made the decision, and like one day I was like, all right, I'm gonna sign up. So I like filled out the form, and Rachel reached out to me, and she was like, whoa, okay. I came to a rehearsal, and I was like, yeah, I'm joining. And like I haven't missed a rehearsal since.
Wow.
Like it instantly became like my favorite thing in my life. Like literally I would look forward to rehearsal nights so much because I could leave work and just go and hang out with cool people and play music. And it's just, yeah, I've come to really cherish it a lot. And I even joined the board of directors as a member at large. I was like, you know what? This is like my favorite thing. I don't care that I haven't even been here for a year. Like I want to, invest more time and effort into making this awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking as another large board member, it's good for people to jump in and help run the things they care about, help make them important to other people, because you can take something that's so meaningful to you and make it good for someone else, and they might also find it meaningful, and so on. So really good to. I mean, I know it's been fun having you in the group. I've enjoyed every time we get to interact and talk. I love the orchestra too. I love going to rehearse and getting food afterwards and joking around and going to conventions together and stuff.
I know, I miss the dinners.
Yeah, I miss dinners, and this is the first one of these interviews we've done since the announcement that MagFest is going to be canceled, or at least MagFest in person is going to be canceled. So that's unfortunate, but it's the right choice.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I was sad about that, but I was really glad to see that their the telethon fundraiser raised their goal money, which means that hopefully they won't die without 1 year of MagFest.
Yeah, and I don't know.
So we can look forward to 2022.
Yeah, I don't know if you tuned into the telethon, but or if anyone watching tuned into the telethon, but what? It's just what?
Beans.
It was very funny. Yeah, beans. Did you say that you first tuned in to see Bean Mask happening?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was horrifying.
And if any of you don't know what we're talking about, it's exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah, they took a mask, they put baked beans in it, and put it on your face, and it was horrifying. Anyways,
I do. Anyway, yeah, let's move on. All right, so
move on.
So the Norwalk Gamer Symphony Orchestra, obviously a symphony orchestra. We play music, but of course we play music from games. So let's kick this interview into gear. Let's talk about some of your favorite video games. Nina, what are some of your favorite video games?
Oh boy. Well, I guess I'll start off with my biggest favorite, all-time favorite video game, which is Zelda Breath of the Wild. I know that's been mentioned at least once before in this show, but it's worth being mentioned again. It seriously is just like I've never spent so many. I might have actually spent more hours in Animal Crossing, but that's like different. Like I don't rank Animal Crossing games in like my favorites. Like they're just a really nice way to pass time in a way. But like Breath of the Wild is just like such an all-encompassing experience for me. Or like I love the story. I mean, it's not my favorite story out of all Zelda games, but I do like it. Mm-hmm. And just the interactivity of the world, I just find to be so like it's just so wholesome. Like the fact that you can like I don't know, like every NPC is unique, and like the Koroks in the world, and like finding the shrines is just so much fun. Unlocking all of the different map areas was so rewarding and awesome. And I feel like even after all the hours I've put into that game, I could log into it right now and find something new, like on my same game file. Like every time I log in, I find something new, which is insane to me because it's like I've spent so many hours in this game.
Yeah. Do you have an approximate count of hours? Do you know?
It's not like it's nowhere near like some people like it's like maybe 300. It's really not that much in the scope of other gamers, I guess. But like for me, that's a lot because
I mean,
not really one to commit to games a lot.
I think that's at least double what I've put into the game. I love this game as well. So
Yeah. Yeah, well, let me rephrase that. It's a lot of hours for like a story-based game compared to like a, competitive game or something,
right. Or Animal Crossing.
Or Animal Crossing. Right, Animal Crossing never ends,
Yeah.
It's like I could put a ton of hours into that easily, but like it doesn't have the same impact as something like Zelda does.
Yeah, Zelda was a very impactful game for me as well. And in the eventual Choose Your Character Mike episode, I will talk a little bit more about why it's meaningful to me.
Who's gonna interview you for that?
That's the question. I think 2 people have offered so far.
You should just interview yourself.
Just gosh, that would be a disaster.
I mean, wouldn't that basically just be like again an 11 stream?
Can I like also play a game at the same time? Anyway. Yeah, no, if I were to do that, I would like pre-record one half of it and then record the other half and just stitch
like
the two
play
together.
The question.
Yeah.
Oh my lord.
Would be a disaster. Let's move on. So, okay, in addition to Breath of the Wild, what other video games do you count among your favorites?
Yeah, so the second one on my list, the rest of this list isn't really in any particular order. Just Breath of the Wild was the number one, but the rest are just other favorites because I can't really rank them. I just love a lot of games. Next thing on my list was there's 2 Final Fantasy games that hold a special place in my heart, also because they're the only ones I've actually finished. But anyways, specifically Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy X. They're my 2 favorites. I'm not sure which one to start with.
Let's start in numerical order. Let's start with 7.
Okay. Yeah, so 7 was actually my second game, or my second Final Fantasy game, which is a little backwards, because I didn't actually become much of a gamer until, like, teenhood, so I don't have, like, a lot of, like, childhood gaming memories. But specifically 7, I really like because I really like the, I guess the cyberpunk, like, aesthetic of it, but then also the story just, I don't know, it's really engaging, and I really like the character arc of Cloud and like the way his character develops and like the plot twists along the way and like the eventual like culmination of his like personhood, I guess. There's not too much I can say without like spoiling it for anyone who still hasn't played this game at this point.
It's an old game, but I think it's worth like as much as you can.
There's one big spoiler. There's one big spoiler that like everyone knows. I'm still not gonna say it, but like everyone knows it. But like the other details, you gotta find out on your own.
You gotta work for it.
And then it's also just really charming. And then on like the music side of things, I love the soundtrack, like the driving bass lines and like the awesome boss themes. Anyway, I could go on forever about that. So
it's got some
we still have a whole nother music section.
That's right, yeah.
And then Final Fantasy X is like my number one, like just nostalgia, even though I wasn't that young when I played it, but like it just, the emotions just get me, man. Like it was just such an adventure to come to like such a heart-wrenching ending to me, and like it just stuck with me. Like I couldn't even, like, if I were to think about like, oh, what even specifically do I like about this game, it's like the battle system is like it's all right, it's fun. I like turn-based, but it's a little slow, and like some of the parts of the story could leave a little to be desired, but just something about the full experience of going through this journey, like through Spira, and just, I don't know, it just gets me.
Yeah.
That's like the gist of like my Final Fantasy experience, is just like, just gets me, man.
It just gets you. Yeah, I
gets
haven't
me.
played
Like,
10, but I have a feeling that if and when I ever do, it's gonna grab me, because it does seem to be a game that really, how do I want to say this? It really piles on the emotion in a sometimes but not always cheesy way, but I think it comes across more as just heartfelt and impactful.
yeah, so like from an outsider view, like if you just happen to see like certain scenes on YouTube or something, like it seems really cheesy, and like the aesthetic of the game is really weird. Like the character design is weird. It's like, I don't know, it seems like a very disjointed game, but like when you're immersed in it and like experiencing the dialogue, and like the character writing is just genius. Like it just really takes you through this journey, and you feel so personally connected to these characters by the end. It's something. It's something else. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to move on to the next game on your list?
Sure. Let's.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's hard for me to like even pinpoint specific things I love about those games.
They're just good.
Yeah, we can.
You just gotta play them all.
They're
don't
just
really have a choice.
good, you know. Like, I just love it. Man, yeah. I don't know. Oh, yeah, and the soundtrack is also very notable. I do have a piece from Final Fantasy X in my list for later.
Now, whoa, this was going to be a spoiler-free interview.
Sorry.
And now you're spoiling later in the interview. I'll forgive you.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Okay. So what's next on the list? Let's move past Final Fantasy a little bit and talk about.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. So the next game on my list is like my super nostalgia favorite. This one actually does come from my childhood. Is Super Mario Sunshine. So the story behind that for me is that when I was a kid, my parents didn't really want to buy us video games. You know, they would rather have us do like art and creative things. Anyways, which is a good thing, but I digress. My family got a GameCube as like a hand-me-down from like my cousin's family. Like they were moving and they just like sent it to us, and I was like, oh my god, video games! At this point, I was maybe like, yeah, pretty much. I was like maybe 7 or 8 at this point, and I was like flipping out. And for the longest time, all we had was like Mario Party and like, you know, just like really generic kids like easy games. But there was a point when my uncle actually bought us a copy of Super Mario Sunshine, just like super out of the blue. And I was playing it with my cousins, and like it became like basically a routine. Like we would open up this game and we would take turns like beating the different levels and stuff, but like we never got very far, like because it was just a weekend thing. But then I never finished it at that point. Around I was maybe like 11 or 12, I started actually playing. I picked it up again and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna play this by myself. I'm not gonna wait until friends to come over. I'm just gonna actually play it. And like I got really committed to it, and that marked like the first time I actually like played a game by myself and like finished it by myself. You know, it wasn't like, oh, the friends are coming over, like, or, you know, I'm not entertaining people by playing video games. It's literally like I just played it by myself, and it was just so much fun and so satisfying to finish. I didn't 100% it because like that's insane.
Yeah.
That's my new goal now that now that this bad boy is in.
The timing's perfect.
I'm like, I'm doing this interview instead of playing this. You're welcome.
Yeah. You know what?
Maybe nobody's watching this because they're playing that. Anyway,
they're all watching and lurking. It's fine.
They can watch the recording later.
That's right.
Anyways, but yeah, it was just so much fun to play through. I really like sort of the charm of the game. It's kind of a common theme in all of my favorite games. Like it just has like a weird, quirky game world. Like the NPCs are just really strangely designed. Like I know some critics of the game say that it's like really hodgepodge and they just kind of threw it together, which is partially true because they were on a time crunch, but like I love it. Like I just think it's the Mario game that has engaged me the most out of any Mario game before or after. It's just so weird. Like, and then of course like the level design is really cool. I find like the difficulty level to be pretty like balanced for someone like me who isn't really like a platformer or like a really serious gamer. Like I don't consider myself very good at games. Like I could not play any 2D Mario. Like I die so fast. Like but I just find it to be really balanced. You know, like some of the worst levels like aren't mandatory, which is nice. But then again, like even the ones that are a bit more challenging, it was really rewarding to finally beat them, you know? Mm-hmm. So it was a good balance for me. And yeah, and even the story got me a little, you know, like I got attached to Flood a bit, you know? She's cool. She's a cool hose
thing. Backpack.
Hose thing. Backpack thing yeah. With a voice and somehow a personality.
We don't ask questions. We just embrace.
Yeah.
We embrace the Flood.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, I love Super Mario Sunshine.
Yeah, Super Mario Sunshine is maybe the only 3D Mario game I have not yet played. So I have my copy. It's coming in the mail theoretically tomorrow. We'll see. Thanks, GameStop. And I'll give it a shot then and see how it goes. But Mario is just...
I know they changed... Yeah.
Go ahead.
They changed up the controls a bit in the... I was doing some research on the Switch version, so it's a little different, but I think it'll still be the same experience overall.
Yeah, I think so. I want to say I was reading someone else, a friend of mine who used to speedrun / still does speedrun it, who commented that, oh yes, they're literally emulating the exact same version of the game that I always speedrun, so every glitch I know of still works. Perfect. Or something like that.
Yeah, I think the only exception in the 3D All-Stars collection is I heard that Mario 64 actually has a patch that certain glitches don't work anymore, so speedrunners will have to use their OG copies. 64, but
which was really a barrier.
Oh well. God forbid, like not being able to exploit glitches. God forbid patching things.
I will say though, my favorite part of watching Super Mario 64 streams of any kind is people executing the backwards long jump repeatedly, because Mario just goes
it's pretty crazy.
It's great.
Oh gosh, yeah. It is entertaining, and I do love glitches, so I find them very entertaining. So
yeah, it's fun. But the talk of speedrunning and glitches is a whole other podcast series, which I have yet to envision. Let's move on. What's the next franchise on your list here?
Yeah, so the next one I'm going to talk about is the Tales of series, which is probably the least known. I mean, it's known, but it's like a pretty niche audience. But I was going to say it's probably the least known on this list. But the Tales of series is a JRPG series, so a Japanese RPG series. It's very, very anime. And like, for those of you who don't know me, I am a huge anime fan, like even more so than games. Like I
thought you
watch
were going to
way
say even more so than Ganon, and I was going to say, first, true, but second, how dare you?
games. I'm not going to comment on that inquiry. I plead the fifth.
We'll move on.
Yeah, so this JRPG series is just, it's so anime. Like the storyline like has that same like sweeping, convoluted plots. But then like I feel like a lot of them, I've played like 3 so far. A lot of them are kind of similar in the way they're set up, and like they're really like recognizable like characters in a way, but each one has like sort of a different twist to it and somehow still manages to like get me super engaged, even though it's still kind of predictable at the same time. Kind of like anime, right? Like you kind of know with certain genres like what's going to happen, but it's still awesome when it happens. So my two
if
favorite,
it's executed well.
Yeah. So my 2 favorite games from this series are Tales of the Abyss and Tales of Symphonia. I'll start with Symphonia. Tales of Symphonia was my first Tales game. It was on the GameCube. A friend of mine in like middle school recommended it to me and we did a trade-off. So I was telling her, "Oh my god, you have to play Zelda Twilight Princess. Like you need to play this game. Like I love this game. I'm obsessed. You have to play it." And then she turned it around at me. She's like, "Well, then you have to play Tales of Symphonia." So we both went out and bought each other's favorite games and played them. And at the same time, we both kind of lost interest in each other's game for some reason. And I dropped it for like years. And then I picked it up again in high school and I played it all the way through. And it's a long game.
Mm-hmm.
It was a long journey. I feel very similarly about this series as I do Final Fantasy, in that like I barely even remember the plot at this point because it's been years since I played it, but like it was just so awesome.
Yeah.
I do really like the battle system in these games. Is really fun, or at least in the earlier entries. It's a little different in the more modern ones. I haven't played them that much. But in like that 2000s era, it's kind of like this action-based. It almost plays like a fighting game.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're like side by side with the enemy, and it's action based, but then you can pause and issue commands to your party. It's really fun, super fast paced, and you can set the difficulty so you can either just button mash or you can, make it really difficult because these games can be really tough.
Yeah.
Like even on like the normal difficulty, some of the boss battles are so frustrating. Like, oh my god, you'll think you're doing well, and then they'll just murder you. But the story of that game is really cool. And then Tales of the Abyss, gameplay-wise, it's like the exact same thing. Tales of the Abyss came out, I think, a couple years later after Symphonia for the PS2. But I played it on the 3DS. They did a 3DS re-release in like 2013 or 14 or something. And that was that was my second one. That one I rank higher than Symphonia in terms of story. I really recommend it, especially if you like anime, because it's got a really anime story. I'm going to go more into detail. I'm spoiling it again. Sorry, Mike. But I've got a lot to say about this game, so I'm not going to spoil it yet. So if you like anime, if you like JRPGs, this is the series for you, especially because they literally have anime openings. Yeah. Like, these games literally have it, they actually have anime cutscenes and, like, a J-Rock song in the intro. Like, it's so awesome.
They're very anime. I personally, my only experience with the series is with Symphonia, where I can't remember his name, but I really like the red-haired swordsman you meet at the temple very early in the game.
It's something with a Z. Zelos.
No, not Zelos.
Wait, not Zelos? Another red-haired?
Yeah. Kratos.
Oh, Kratos. Yeah.
I really like
Kratos.
Kratos.
His hair's like burgundy, but like okay.
Yeah, Zelos also has red hair, but he shows.
Zelos is kind of a He's an acquired taste.
So I
But
played through
Kratos is
that
cool.
game. I really liked that game. I played its sequel,
Oh.
which was fine. And I think I started Tales of Zestiria on the PC, and for whatever
Oh.
reason, I just couldn't get that into it.
Yeah, I've heard that one isn't like fantastic.
Yeah, but
Like
I
that
also
like mid 2000s era was like kind of the golden age for this series.
Mhm.
I'm currently playing through Tales of Vesperia, which
Okay.
has been I can't really rank it yet because I haven't finished it, but I'm playing the they re-release it on the Switch in HD, and like it's really good so far. It might outrank Abyss as my favorite.
Well, we'll
It's
have
really
to see when we do the second round of interviews. We'll ask you how the game is. I'm not promising anything.
It's gonna take a while for me to
And then
finish that game.
yeah, and then I watched someone play through most of Tales of Berseria, and she said it was one of the best games she had ever played. So
That's another
vote of
one that I
confidence.
started and haven't finished, but I didn't get as hooked on that one yet
Mm.
because it's very recent and the game, it's very different from the older ones. So it was kind of like a
Yeah.
culture shock for me to like it was hard for me to get into it because I'm too focused on they changed everything.
Oh, why
But
did
like
they
if I give
change
it
things?
if I give it a chance, I'm sure I'll like it, but I'm gonna do that one after Vesperia.
Fair enough. So regardless, lots of votes of confidence about this series from earlier games to more modern games. So if you're a fan of anime and or JRPGs, and hopefully both, check out that series. All right, we've got one more game on your list. What is this game?
So the last game on my list is Untitled Goose Game. I just felt such a need to talk about this game. Like, it's so short. Like, it obviously has not occupied a lot of my. I checked my Switch and I was like looking at how many hours I've played in every game, and that was literally on the bottom. It was like 5 hours or something, and I'm like, oh, that makes me sad, but also like it's such a short game.
Mhm.
But as everyone may or may not know, Untitled Goose Game came out just about a year ago, actually, and to a lot of unprecedented hype since it's a really small indie title, just because it just features this adorable, horrible goose. And it became a meme. Like, everyone memed this goose, honk. But in all seriousness, beyond just like the adorable humor that is that goose, I just love like the charm. There's the charm again. It's always about the charm. Like, in my opinion, this game is like one of the most polished and like tightly designed games I've ever played, period. Like, it's just the levels are so like effective, I guess. Like, every little thing in the little town that you're playing in, like everything has a purpose. Like, you can use every object at your disposal to reach your goal of distracting the distracting the people so that you can check things off your list, for those who don't know how this game works. So your role is to be a goose, and you have a checklist of objectives, things like get a bow put on your neck, or little things like that, and you have to use the items at your disposal to trick the humans into accomplishing these goals, and you're basically just harassing a quaint little British town as a goose.
That's right. It's a game about harassment.
Yes. A little more wholesome harassment. But I think there's only like 5 levels, but basically in terms of like what I'm saying about it, the level design just being so nice, it's like you go through these different levels and you accomplish all these silly goals and you wreak havoc on the town. But then at the very end of the game, you're given one last task, that brings you back through the entire town backwards. And then you come back home to like where you started in the beginning. And like suddenly everything, like a little hint that you got in the beginning just clicks. And it's just, when I finished it, I just felt so happy. Like I felt like that goose, like, yes, all in a day's work, I've accomplished my goals and I'm returning home and everything is nice, but also everything is terrible because I'm terrible. And it's just so
delightfully
cute.
terrible.
And like, and also like the art, the art direction, oh, it's so crisp. Like the design, like it's such a perfect use of like maybe like a lower budget, you know, like yeah, it's an indie game, so like they made the best use of like simple graphics and simple polygons to like its fullest. You know, the simple cell shaded design is just so well executed. The color palette, the little touches, the little details of like when you pick up like a bar of soap, it makes bubbles, and like the sound design from that, or like you honk into a glass jar and it makes it like an echoey jar sound. Like every little detail is like perfect, you know? They really put a lot of care into this silly game that apparently the developers had started as a joke. Like someone just brought it up, like, what if we made a game about being a goose? And then they rolled with it and it became like such a successful game. And soon they're, I think in a couple of days, they're going to release a free update where you can play in 2-player co-op mode. And so you have a second goose with like,
the goose.
He's like the kind of goose with like a little lump on his head. He's so cute. And so you can have 2 goose, and like, so I'm so excited to like find new ways to beat the levels and new ways to mess with the townsfolk. I'm probably going to play it with my sister. It's going to be so much fun. And like, I just love that game.
Yeah.
So cute. Honk.
Yeah,
Mess with the honk, you get the bonk.
That game pretty early, and it's the kind of game where you have a dedicated honk button, right? Like I feel like,
and a wing flap button,
and wing flap buttons, and I feel like that says something about like they took the game seriously, but also they developed it a little bit tongue in cheek. Like we're here to have fun,
of course.
We're here to honk and be silly geese and
press Y to honk.
Yeah. Yeah, that game was a lot of fun.
It's really just beautiful. It's just great. I love
it. Yeah, I'll have to find someone to play co-op with to do some 2 Goose mayhem. All right. Well, why don't we move on to the main portion of the interview? Let's talk about music. So again, I mention this every week, but that's because it's important. With the Norwalk Gamer Symphony Orchestra, we play music, but we play music from games. So let's talk about some of the video game music that is important or meaningful to you, or maybe you just really like it. And I've asked Nina to pick 5 pieces, since everyone else got 5. Somewhere along the line that became the standard amount. So here we are. So Nina has 5 pieces of music picked out for us. Nina, what is the first piece of music you have for us?
So, the first piece of music we're going to listen to is the Terrytown theme from Breath of the Wild. Yeah, I guess we'll just listen to it and then I'll ramble about it.
Composed by Hajime Wakai, I believe. So here's Terrytown.
Okay, yeah, I didn't do that research.
I did. Here we go.
Thanks.
is Terrytown from Breath of the Wild. I love this track for a lot of reasons, but I have a feeling there are many of the same reasons that you like this track. So I'll give the floor over to you. Nina, what do you like about Terrytown?
So,
let's get started. Let's begin.
Let's get started. I wrote out basically an essay for this. I'll paraphrase though. So the background behind this track is, so Terrytown is an optional side quest in Breath of the Wild, where basically you find there's this little island in the middle of a lake, in a super random spot. And you're helping this Hylian man, or human man, recruit people to work and live in his new town. He tries to make a new town, and it's basically this big fetch quest where you have to go to all the different races of Hyrule, and find somebody to come back with you to this town to help contribute to its economy and bring up its population up to like 5 or whatever it is at the end. So what's really cool about the music in this town theme, so what we just listened to is actually, so there's actually like 4 or 5 different versions of this piece, and that's the final version at the end of the side quest, where after you've gathered everybody from the different corners of the world. So when you first start the quest, you just have it's got a really basic theme. That sort of main melody you hear right in the beginning is pretty much the only thing that's in the tune at the beginning. I wish we had time to listen to literally all of them, but that's not happening. Yeah.
Unless those were the 5 that you wanted to pick, but we got a lot of games to come.
Can you imagine? Oh my god. So one at a time, so like the fetch quest is triggered one at a time, so you bring back in order. Actually, I don't have the exact order listed, but you gotta get a Goron, a Gerudo, a Zora, a Rito, and then also some builders from Hateno Village, which is a human town. And as you get each person, the music changes. So they sprinkle in little motifs from each race's home village theme. So like you've got like the trombone from the Gorons, you've got the nice little harp tune from the Gerudo, and like each one has its own unique little melody that on their own seem really different, but they somehow they arrange these together into this soothing little piece that just, it feels so, it's just so harmonized, and but they're also really distinct. You know, the choice of different instruments really makes them stand out when you listen for them. But if you're not really paying attention to the music, it just sounds like a really nice, soothing piece that feels like it's like a cute little town, you know? And I guess like overall, I love it. Like that whole side quest, as well as the music that accompanies it. I just think it's such a nice, like, representative part of the game where, like, even though it's not a required quest and you could play the entire game without ever finding it, I just think it sort of hints at like a hopeful future for Hyrule, because as you may or may not know, the whole premise of Breath of the Wild is that you're in basically a post-apocalyptic Hyrule, and I just think it's so hopeful for like the future of Hyrule rebuilding post-Ganon, or post-Ganon canon. So maybe we'll see Hyrule sort of rebuilding in Breath of the Wild 2, hopefully. But yeah, I just really wanted to use that post-canon joke. I'm sorry.
Well, you should be ashamed of yourself, and I'm ending this interview immediately.
All of that was just a setup for... No, I'm kidding. I actually love this.
This is the whole reason you joined the orchestra, was to make this joke. I knew it.
That's not beyond me. I mean, I've kind of solidified my status as a meme lord in this group from day one.
But there's still more memes to be shared, so.
Of course.
Yeah, I love Terrytown. I love Terrytown the quest, and the more I listen to the music, the more I love Terrytown the theme, because of exactly what you said. It represents these races, these different races who don't necessarily dislike each other, but are very different peoples, and it shows that they can come together and build a home for everyone. And the way all of their tunes fit into the music, I think gives hope to the way that they can fit in with each other, and make this town really work. And that's sappy and overly saccharine and stuff, and I don't care, because it's great.
It's so wholesome.
Yeah.
The running theme is, I really like wholesome things.
There ain't nothing wrong with that. Yeah, Terrytown is a lot of fun. You say it's an optional quest, and yes, technically it's optional, but it's basically not optional.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that might be my favorite thing in Breath of the Wild. In a game that is full of things to do and things to like, and a few things not to like Terrytown rises to the top. It's even though every other quest is go find me 50 bundles of wood, go find me 60 bundles of wood or whatever. That part's dumb. It's the find people and bring them back here part.
But it's funny because I didn't discover this quest until I think I had already found all the shrines. I was deep into the game when I found it. For some reason I never triggered it before. And actually I had already been listening to the soundtrack online and stuff, and I kept seeing this thing for Terrytown. I'm like, where the hell is Terrytown? What is this town? It doesn't exist. And I'm like, oh, because I have to make it. It literally just didn't exist, and then I found it and it all made sense.
Yeah. Well, okay. We could talk about Breath of the Wild for a while, and we could talk about Zelda for a while. But let's move on for now. Let's go to the next game, or the next piece on our list. And this is from a game that we talked about earlier. What is this piece that we're going to listen to?
So this next piece is a huge tonal shift. Actually, every single piece on this list is a huge tonal shift from each other. I kind of did that on purpose. We're gonna throw you for a wild ride here. Perfect. So this is from Tales of the Abyss. It's called The Edge of a Decision, and that's composed by Motoi Sakuraba, who did a vast majority of the Tales of series. And yeah, it's a really cool. It's a really cool piece.
So here is The Edge of a Decision by Motoi Sakuraba. As much as I just want to listen to that rockin' organ solo, let's go.
It hasn't even looped yet. Come on.
Hasn't even looped yet. I'm giving you a minute and a half on each of these tracks, and we continue to listen to it in the background. It's just how we do. So, holy cow.
It's a long one.
That's a rockin' track, and I'm a big fan. Nino, what do you like about The Edge of Decision? Why pick this track from this game to share?
So you might think that this is a boss theme. It totally sounds.
I sure think that.
Right?
Yeah.
You would assume that this is a boss theme. This is actually just like a standard battle theme from the middle of the game, because there's three like it's literally just a normal, random encounter battle theme, which is insane. Like I've never heard another game have that badass of a battle theme just for the normal battles, not even a boss.
Mm-hmm.
So there's three main battle themes in this game. Actually, most Tales games follow the exact same format. There's like three sort of chapters to the game, I guess. So this is the second battle theme. And basically, it's just, I find it to be a really shining example of like where Motoi Sakuraba really excels in his compositions. So a little bit of background on him is that he's actually was originally just but he's originally a keyboardist for prog rock bands, and that's his background is prog rock, and that's his biggest thing. But he became a game composer. He composed the very first Tales of game, which I think was Fantasia, and branched off into this. I will say that a lot of his stuff is not really my favorite. He really excels at these battle themes. Some of the town themes are just kind of like really boring and generic. But this one's so cool because you can really hear his rock background and his awesome keyboarding background. Like that shredding organ solo that you mentioned that we cut off right there. Like that's all just him. If you have a chance, go look up like one of his concerts online, because he has this amazing setup on stage with like, he's surrounded by keyboards and he's just like shredding out. Like it looks just like even more epic than someone, shredding an awesome guitar solo, except it's on keyboard. It's so cool. He's really cool. And like the bass line is really awesome in that piece. Like it's a really complex bass line. There's a lot of different layers into this piece. Like I just think musically or just there's so much to listen to in it. Which is, it's kind of sad that it's a regular battle theme, because those battles don't last long. Like I usually don't even make it to like the keyboard solo, because those battles are so short. It's a little sad.
It's really interesting when battle tracks do that. When they're like 2, 3, 4 minutes long, but a normal battle lasts like a minute. Like, come on.
Like I guess unless you go on like the hardest difficulty or something.
Yeah.
But these games don't even get that hard. Yeah. But then I also like how, it feels kind of like metal, but then it also has like a little bit of those synth vocals that give it more of that fantasy video game feel, and then they kind of pull it back. But the real, the biggest reason I love this piece is actually the way it fits into the story arc of the game. So like I mentioned, there's like sort of three main acts to the game. Not really officially, but they're pretty clear. And they're divided by when the battle music changes. And so when the battle music changes, it really represents sort of a shift in the story and a shift in sort of the protagonist. So especially in this game. So this middle portion of the game for the protagonist, Luke, is a time of like deep introspection and change for him. So there was like an earth-shattering event that sort of just changed his, like threw him for a loop, at the end of that first act. And this whole second act is all about him like working from the ground up to change himself, to make progress and sort of come back from this terrible thing that happened. And like I feel like this piece really represents him like fighting to like make a difference in his life and make a difference in the world around him. And like the contrast of that is that the first battle theme sounds a lot more like your typical RPG battle theme. It's pretty upbeat, it's adventurous, more lighthearted. It's still a really good, it's really awesome too. But at that point, the main character, he's really naive in the beginning. He's kind of a terrible person, but he's like really happy-go-lucky and kind of a brat at the beginning. And then the second part is when he goes dark and like he really needs to change. And then the third battle theme actually has this lighter feeling, but it's also more somber in a way. It's less fast, it's less driving, but it feels more like a conclusion. It feels like his inner turmoil has sort of matured fully in a way through this game. And the entire plot of this game really surrounds this main character's character growth journey. And I just really like how the music reflects that throughout the game. And right smack in the middle is this piece, The Edge of a Decision, a very fitting name because it truly is the edge of a decision for the game and for the characters.
Yeah, I had not heard this before, and when we started listening to it, something about the bass line and the keyboard reminded me so strongly of another game that I've played,
Really?
another piece. And it took me a little bit, and then I realized it really, really reminds me of the battle theme from Baten Kaitos, Eternal Wings in the Lost Ocean, which is another JRPG. And it reminded me so strongly that I had to Google, who is the composer of Baten Kaitos? Take a wild guess.
Was it Motoi
It's
Sakuraba?
Motoi Sakuraba!
Yeah, he's so distinct.
So yeah, it like that's like the similarities are so striking. I almost want to pull an audible and say we got to listen to some of the True Mirror. We won't. So after this interview, take a listen to the True Mirror and tell me it's not like it screams Motoi Sakuraba. It's awesome. And yeah, we won't spend a lot of time talking about that. Again, wait until my interview. But yeah, that was just a fun little thing. Like, wow, this reminds me so strongly of the same composer. So
Yep, it usually is when that happens.
yeah, super cool. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about our third piece today. As much as I want to keep listening to rock and organ and guitar and bass, we have three more pieces to talk about. So what do we have next?
So time for another Whiplash tonal shift. So remember I mentioned Final Fantasy X being one of my favorite games, and just the emotional impact of it is just really amazing. So the next piece we're going to listen to is Sudeki Dane from Final Fantasy X. And this is the orchestral version at the end credits of the game, because there's two versions.
And I looked this up, and what I found was Nobuo Uematsu, which seemed to make sense. So we're going to go with Nobuo Uematsu. Sudeki Dane.
Yes.
雲が
is a small excerpt from, what is it, Tsuteki Dane.
Yeah, it would be a while if we listened to the whole thing.
Yeah, really, really pretty piece. And like you mentioned, it's like you warned us, big tonal shift.
Yeah.
Really, really taking us
Tonal
down
whiplash.
from where we were. But Nina, what do you like about Tsuteki Dane?
So you know how we were talking about how a lot of the things about this game seem kind of cheesy. This is a good example. I feel like if you were to listen to this song not having played the game, it just sounds like some sappy, anime song. But the reason I specifically picked this version, so there's another version of this song that plays during the game, during a cutscene. It's a little different. It's a little more poppy in a way. Like, it's got like guitars and drums and stuff, whereas this version is purely orchestral. And the reason for that is because this version plays right at the beginning of the credits. So there's a huge, cinematic ending cutscene, super emotional. And then like you get like a few moments, and like there's this really sweeping epic orchestral ending piece that I love. I wish I wanted to choose it, but like it's so long and varied that this interview would not do it justice at all, because you have to listen to the whole thing. But the screen goes dark, and like you get like just a 1 second of silence, and then like the credits start, and the little piano, those few piano notes start of this piece, and like if you weren't already crying, this is when you would cry. Like, I was already crying way before this, but like it was that moment where I was like, ah! Like, it just, the finality of it, like, oh my god, it's over. Like, it hurts so good. Like, it just. And then when you look up the lyrics for this piece in English, like, oh my god. I mean, it's like the most epic, fantastical romance of the century, in my opinion. Like, it's just, but it's not just romance too. It's just this. It's so good. Like, I can't really speak specifically about it because it's literally all spoilers. Like,
Yeah.
The whole reason why this is emotional is a spoiler. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's also just really pretty. I really like the. I think the orchestral arrangement is really nice, but I actually kind of prefer the original version. But just in terms of like the emotional impact, I wanted to include this orchestral version. Mm-hmm. But it's just, it brings about this feeling of like, whereas the more pop version feels kind of like a love ballad or like a love song, this one feels more like I don't know, like a lament almost. It's like, it's so bittersweet. It's happy and sad at the same time. It's like, oh, we're moving on, and we have hope for the future of this world in this game, but we're not getting, but we're also remembering all of the people who, suffered and died along the way, in this huge war. And so it's so balanced in that it kind of reflects how you're feeling about it, It's like, happy, sad.
Yeah.
It hurts so good.
Yeah, the instrumentation is doing a really, really good job at conveying all these emotions that you're talking about. Yeah, again, another piece that I haven't really listened to, and that I want to go and listen to the whole thing now. Although maybe it's best that I listen to it in context if and when I play the game.
I mean, it's a really beautiful piece either way.
Yeah. I feel obligated to mention that it's a track with lyrics, it's a track with vocals, and not a lot of video game tracks have vocals, and I feel like there's a danger of it being done poorly. And here, I don't think it's done poorly at all. I think it's done really, really well.
Yeah,
I think part of that is because, if I may venture to be so bold as to guess, I think a lot of that is they didn't translate it. they let the lyrics that were written, stand in their original language. I feel like a lot of the time you get Japanese lyrics that are then kind of like the Japanese lyrics are crafted to fit the song and they fit beautifully.
Right.
And then you translate them to English and suddenly your singer is singing all these weird cadences and
so what's interesting is that like even without a translation you can feel you kind of know. I mean, if you play the game, you know what it's trying to convey in a way. But they did actually do, there is an official English translation, but it's not part of the game at all. They did it for the Distant Worlds concerts, maybe like 10 years ago. So there's an English version that they performed. It's pretty good. It's very different though. It doesn't give me the same feeling, and they definitely took a lot of liberties with the translation. So if you compare the official translation with, I don't know what that was, with like if you were to translate it literally from Japanese, it's very different. I do like it. It's just not the same. And the vocalist is also a very different style. She's got more of like a robust. It's also, I think they also transposed it a little bit, a few keys down, to fit, because this vocalist, I don't know who she is. I don't remember her name. She does clearly have a very high voice. I also really like her vocals as well. They are kind of poppy, like she's definitely not like a classical kind of singer. Like it's almost a little pitchy sometimes. Like sometimes she doesn't quite hit those high notes, but they leave it there, and somehow somehow the imperfection in her vocals just adds to the emotion to me. Like it feels so much like she's just someone lamenting, not like a professional singer, And I think it's sort of the charm of it. She doesn't use a lot of vibrato or anything, not a lot of frills. She's just singing, and I love it.
Yeah, it's letting the emotion of the piece be the thing that she's conveying, rather than, again, I agree with what you're saying. I don't want to call her untalented, but like she's not showing off how professionally trained of a singer she is. She's showing off the emotions of the song and of the lyrics.
Right. She never there's no crazy high notes or it's very simple. Very simple vocals, which is both the composition and the way she performs as well.
Yeah.
Whereas the English version is a little bit more, it almost feels like a Broadway piece in a good way. Like I like it too, but it's different. The style
I did musicals. I appreciate Broadway.
Yeah, oh yeah, exactly. But it's a very different style. But yeah.
Cool. Well, okay. I'm looking at the next piece on this list, and I'm feeling that tonal shift theme. Nina, why don't you introduce the next piece?
Tonal whiplash. Okay.
Let's
go. So the next one on our list is another one from a game that I mentioned earlier in the night. This is from Super Mario Sunshine, and it's definitely the most recognizable piece from Super Mario Sunshine. If you've played this game, you've heard many, many hours of this theme. And it is the Delfino Plaza main theme. And I'm ready to bop.
And this one is composed by the one and only Koji Kondo.
The one and only, the Lord himself, Koji Kondo.
Here's Delfino Plaza. All right, I think we're gonna have to get something better than the Child Prodigy to do this. But this was Delfino Plaza from Super Mario Sunshine, composed by Koji Kondo. This is, I think, a well-known piece. A lot of VGM fans know and love this one, and for good reason. Nina, why bring Delfino Plaza to the table today?
I mean, did you hear it?
My headphones were on. They were pumping.
So catchy. Like, you would think that after all of the hours spending, like, you know, Delfino Plaza is the main hub of the world in Mario Sunshine, so you spend a lot of time there, and you hear this theme a lot. And it has a relatively short loop as well, so it becomes very repetitive, and yet I don't mind. Like, after years of hearing this theme over and over and over again, I don't get tired of it. Like, I just want to jam out to it. Like, I don't mind, like, leaving it on the TV and just, like, putting down the controller and letting the music play. Like, it's just so catchy. And, like, it's also, like, a really simple piece in a way, too. Like, there's not too many layers going on, but the ones that are there are really well placed. Like, you've got that kind of, like, the chords, and then and the bass line is very simple. And, like, it just, every little piece of it you can pick out as, like, I don't know, like, it's so perfectly blended. I'm sure there's some, you know, music theory analysis from, like, 8-bit or something that really goes into why it's so catchy, but, like, I don't really have the precise words for it, but it's just great because it's a you know, hub world theme that you just don't get tired of, which is impressive, you know? Yeah. It's easy to get sick of a theme. Very easy. Yeah. And this is not one of those.
Right. It's the word that I keep thinking of is it's plucky. It's plucky and fun. and it's not just because there's kind of a guitar plucking along in the background, but no, it's fun. It's there to have fun, which, like, isn't that what Mario's all about? We're just here to have fun. Gosh, I like
especially in Delfino Plaza itself, like, all of the other worlds in the game, like, you're kind of there for a reason. Like, you know, they've got their own aesthetic, their own feel to it, and there are some other really catchy ones. I do like all of them a lot. But, you know, the whole purpose of Delfino Plaza is, like, if you're not going into a different world, that means all you're doing is, like, screwing around and doing little side missions, and, like, not even missions, like trying to spray a bird to get a blue coin, and just, like, little silly things like that are the kind of things that you're doing, or, like, trying to throw a fruit into a basket. Just little silly things like that are what you do in Delfino Plaza, and, like, this theme just really reflects that sort of laid back energy of just kind of jumping around and finding little Easter eggs and stuff. It's great.
It's all I want out of life, is to dump around a small town and put fruit in baskets.
I keep forgetting that you haven't played this game, but yeah, so there's literally, like, there's these ladies around town who, like, have these big baskets, and they're like, hey, you want to make some money by getting me 3 fruits of this type? And you got to get them, and some of them are actually kind of difficult, like the durians, which is, you know, like a big round fruit, and you can't pick them up, you have to kick them. So it's really difficult to get it into the basket because you have to kick it. But anyways, I digress. That's a very... Well, it's like little things like that just add to, like, the charm of the game. There's just so many little fun things like that to do, and I feel like this theme really reflects that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. I know a couple different groups that have done covers of this. Lexi in our Twitch chat mentioned the Silva Gunner version, and I want to say which one, because I feel like there are probably several that parody this.
I know which one she's talking about, and it's the one where it starts with the chords, but the chords and the bass line, but the melody never comes in. It just keeps vamping forever and ever and ever. It's really scary. It's like
It's like, come on.
Okay,
What does it go? What does it go?
The eternal vamp, and it's unsettling.
That's the fear of everyone who ever does community theater and musicals. Is just I forgot my words. I forgot the lyrics, so now we're vamping forever.
There's no cue. Yep, no cue, and the conductor's just like, all right, we're vamping. We're vamping. We're waiting for you. Come on.
All right, unfortunately,
you got this.
We cannot afford to vamp forever on this show, so let's move on to the last piece. Maybe the one that I've been looking forward to the most, because I get to see the cheat sheet ahead of time. Nina, what is the last song that we're going to talk about?
So I'd like to say I kind of saved best for last, in that this is really like, it encompasses a lot of the cool things I liked about all the other things. Anyways, I'll let it speak for itself. So this piece is from the 2019 Switch release of Link's Awakening, and this is Telltale Heights.
And the Link's Awakening Switch version was done by Ryu Nagamatsu. I forgot to look up who did the original Link's Awakening, but here's Telltale Heights. Unless you know,
sure.
We'll look it up in the break.
I don't know, but yeah.
All right, here's Telltale Heights.
Oh, where do I even start? It's so
I was
good.
silent.
I guess to start with.
I was muted.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Nina,
What?
talk.
No, you weren't muted just now.
Yeah, I was muted on the stream. It doesn't matter. So you heard what I
Oh,
said.
on the stream.
Didn't hear what I said.
I heard what you said. Okay, moving on.
Just move on.
So I don't even know where to start with this piece. It's just, oh, it's so cool. And honestly, it was hard for me to pick a piece from this game, because the Link's Awakening remake, regardless of what you think of the game itself, the soundtrack is their remastering of the original Link's Awakening soundtrack is just breathtaking. Like, the original soundtrack is amazing. Like, it took an already awesome thing and arranged it in such an elegant and well done way. It's to start with, like, the instrumentation, for example, which you can hear really clearly in this piece in particular, is just a lot of the tracks in the game, like, most all of the tracks in the game are focused on these small ensemble groups of, like, little quartets and quintets, and there's, like, in the opening theme, you've got, like, a little recorder solo, which is so unusual in a game. And I feel like when games are like orchestrated like this with real instruments, I feel like oftentimes they do like a full orchestra and it's really epic and symphonic. But in this game, they just kept it so simple, and like they didn't really add much from the original soundtrack. The original soundtrack, you know, they made the best what they could with such a, you know, a small amount of memory on the Game Boy Color, right? Or no, originally it was on the regular Game Boy, I think. And then they ported it to the Game Boy Color.
I feel like I have my copy somewhere around here.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, you know, they really maximized that memory on the game and really made every little melody and harmony really stand out and work together with limited resources. And they kept the spirit of that in rearranging for this Switch remake by using these small ensemble arrangements with like a lot of little woodwinds. I love the amount of bassoon love in this. Like, I just love the sound of bassoon. You should go check out the Bassoonify cover from this game if you haven't already. It's so good. And like every instrument in this instrumentation just has so much room to express itself. Like when you really listen to it with like good headphones and like you pick apart the arrangement, you can hear in some of the pieces, you can hear the player breathe, you know, like in like flute sections, you can hear them breathing in. And I just think that's such a beautiful detail. It just feels so rich and raw. And I love the amount of room in the arrangements. There's like little moments of silence, and it's such a great way to arrange, you know, an 8-bit track into, you know, live instruments. And then specifically with Telltale Heights, I feel like this piece is such a great culmination of all of like the musical like motifs they've been building up throughout the game, both in the original and in this version, where it still feels like these little, you know, quartets playing, but they're like almost competing with each other. You've got a string quartet playing sometimes, but then they kind of pass the mic around. Like the melody is passed around all these different instruments one at a time, and each one gets a chance to. It's so cool. Like I just love the way this is arranged so much. And then during like that sort of like bridge section, you hear the original like 8-bit sound effects from the original game, which is such a cool detail because it really is just like a little callback to the original, and it still has the same feel. And then of course, overall, you know, not even just the instrumentation, but just overall to comment on like the original of this, just the theme in general, regardless of the instrumentation, it's so heroic, and it's such a shame that when you listen to it, you're in an area where you have to go in and out of caves like all the time, and you can, unless you just stand there and listen to the track, you'll never hear the full thing, which is such a shame. Like, it makes me sad. But like, so sometimes I literally just do that. I'll just stand in Telltale Heights and listen to the theme because it's so awesome. And it's such an earworm too. It just it just makes you
It gets in there, it gets stuck. Yeah. I mean, I was excited to talk about this piece, but like you've done a couple times, you pretty much shared everything that I really like about this. I mean, that's good. This is not my show. This is your show, basically. I think the thing that gets me, and you mentioned this, I'm gonna mention it again because it's so impactful to me. Again, this isn't my interview, so I will just keep this brief and say I have a lot of history with this game and a very emotional, nostalgic connection to it. And so every time in one of their pieces they directly quote the 8-bit sounds of the original Game Boy soundtrack, to me, it's almost proof. It's like the signature or the seal on the letter that proves to me that Ryo Nagamatsu and the entire musical team had a real love for the original soundtrack, and really, really took their job of reorchestrating it and rearranging it very seriously and very respectfully. So that, in addition to them just doing a fantastic job in general, is just like I really, really, really like this new game's soundtrack. Stay tuned for when I eventually get interviewed, and I'll talk more about it.
Yeah, especially since, like, of all, like, past Zelda remakes / re-releases, this is the first one where they redid the soundtrack. Right, because they've been re-releasing Zelda games for a long time, even re-skinning them, like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask 3D. They completely, like, re-skinned the graphics and stuff, but they kept the music the same. So it was really interesting that they chose to reorchestrate this one, and I think it really fits with, the reskin that they did, because it was such a it was kind of like the biggest remake in the Zelda series so far. And I really love the remake, but this isn't about the game. This is about the music. Because I'm not going to get into that, because it won't be pretty. We've gotten into some
Why
heated
do you say
discussions
that? Just because
before.
I really don't like it. You're right. We don't have to spend time on this.
We've had our share of discussions about this.
but we can both agree that the soundtrack they did, the update they did, it's stellar. It's wonderful. I can't say enough good things about it. It's good. It's good. Yeah. Gosh, yeah. I want to share the rest of the soundtrack. I want to do a show where we just walk through the entire
whole thing.
Link's Awakening soundtrack.
Good. It's so good. Like, yeah. I love it.
Gosh. Okay. I think that's going to do it for the musical section here. Now, Nita, we're moving on to the last section of the show, the instrument petting zoo. And I'm looking at our outline. Do you have an instrument to share with us tonight?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I was gonna share my violin.
Okay.
I forgot to tune it. I could go grab it. I might have to tune it, but we can do violin.
Tune it in the recording. Let's go.
All right. I'll be right back.
It's just, that's what we like to call extra content here on the Choose Your Character show. And I will admit, I was not expecting to have to solo vamp for time here, but gosh, yeah, that would be fun. I've never owned a violin, so I don't know how it gets tuned. And Nina's back, but she can't hear me because she hasn't put her earbuds back in. Welcome back.
I know, like, this is awkward without.
Tell me how awkward it is. Tell me how awkward it is. Just watching me talk.
This is very awkward.
Oh, that's one thing I wanted to do. I will real quick mention, I did look up in the reason I was muted when we came back from the Link's Awakening track is because I muted myself to type in to look up the composers of the original. So the original composers were Kazumi Tataka, Minako Hamano, and Kozue Ishikawa. And once again, the Switch remaster, reorchestration, rearrangement, etc. was all done by Ryu Nagamatsu. Cool. Let's talk about violins. So I guess the first thing we could do is show off what the instrument looks like, and then maybe I don't know if you'll be able to do this, but as you're tuning it, maybe talk about some of the tuning pegs and the different ways it operates.
Yeah, I mean, I can't go into crazy detail because, like, I'm really not that much of a violinist. I kind of forget things sometimes.
Ben wrote a history lesson of the guitar, and I don't think anyone's expecting to have that for their instrument.
Yeah. So. Well, you see, there was this guy named Stradivarius. No, I'm not going to do that.
This guy. Tell me more about this guy.
Yeah, so, like, I never really took, like, a lot of violin lessons at all. So, like, there are gaps in my knowledge. And I don't know where my shoulder rest is, so we're just gonna have to make do without it. So this is the bow. I was just rosining it, which is some sort of sap, I guess, that makes the bow sticky and grab the strings. So weird. My tuner is here somewhere. So this is a violin.
Look at that.
It's probably like one of the most well-known, if not the most well-known, like orchestra instruments. I'm trying to get it in frame. There we go.
There it is. Look at that.
Yeah, so pretty much everyone knows what a violin is. It's a string instrument. It plays music. has four strings. We've got a tuning pegs. We've got a bridge, very important. I think a cool fun fact about
yeah, can you point out which piece of that is the bridge? That guy.
This wooden piece right here. So the thing that's really interesting about the bridge, I think kind of a fun fact about it, is that it's not attached to anything. It's sitting in there purely from the tension of the strings. So I've actually had it happen before where it started leaning a bit and then it popped out, and it was very, very nerve-wracking and terrifying. So if this isn't perfectly straight, it could fall down, and it's a very fragile instrument. I don't know how this thing has survived. I've traveled with this poor thing. It was really cheap, so it's fine. Oh yeah, this violin's name is River Tam, like from
Hello,
Firefly.
We don't
I was really into Firefly when I got it.
How awesome Firefly is, but
yeah, this is a game. This is a game show. It's not a game show. It's a show about games.
This has been a game show the entire time, Nina. The good news is you're winning. So
okay, really quick because I haven't practiced in a few days. Two-set violin would murder me. Ling Ling 40 hours.
I don't know if they're watching this.
Shout out to those Ling Ling 40 hours stands.
So, what notes are you tuning it to?
Good question.
I don't know, whatever I feel like.
So the strings in order from lowest to highest are is it G, D, A, E.
Okay.
So experts would tune it by only tuning the A string to the I guess to the oboe in the orchestra, and then somehow tune the rest by ear, but that's not how I roll. So I'm using a clip-on tuner here.
Okay.
Makes things a lot easier.
I think if I am correct, and there's a good chance I'm not, that's like it's like backwards guitar tuning, because the lowest string on a guitar is an E, and then you go up to an A instead of from an A up to an E. But anyway,
I don't remember how guitar tuning works, even though I play guitar.
Like that violin, but backwards.
So, like, for context, the only instrument I've actually I guess classically trained in is piano. Mm-hmm. And even with that, it's been 10 years since I stopped taking lessons, so I forgot a lot of my theory. So I just kind of wing it up. Okay, we're in tune.
Cool. So what pieces were you adjusting in order to change the tuning?
Oh yeah, so these main tuning pegs are, I guess on more advanced violinists and more expensive violins, these are the primary things you'll use to tune. But since I have a beginner violin, it comes with these little fine tuners. Okay. So these guys tune a lot slower, so a much smaller increment. So when your instrument isn't really that out of tune, it's just regular practice, I usually just use these because it's usually just a little bit off. Because these guys, if you're not careful, they can easily they're held in only by tension. They're not like a guitar where you have gears in the headstock. These are just held in by the shape of it, by shoving it in there. So, when you tune it up, it can be really hard to get it very precise. If you're good at it, you're good at it, but I'm not.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it'll slip. If you have a bad peg, it'll start slipping out. And often when you change the strings, it'll take a long time to stretch. I remember one time, Chris, a fellow violinist in the orchestra, came to rehearsal with new strings, and he fell out of tune every measure. Yeah. It was very sad. It's just the reality of violin.
Yeah, I can speak to the kind of fragility of the larger tuning pegs. Not on a violin, but when I was in 4th grade, I played the cello. and I thought, "I can tune this. I sure can," and just completely I didn't ruin
Nope.
the instrument, but
Nope.
I ruined my ability to play the instrument without taking it back to the shop we were renting it from, being like, "I broke it. Can you fix it?" So
Yeah, yeah, and then if you let the strings go too loose, the bridge will fall, like I said.
mhm.
And then when you're changing strings, you can only change one at a time, or else the bridge will fall. And then the bridge actually has, like, technically is supposed to be placed by a professional. Um, Mine clearly wasn't, since that last time my bridge fell, but we don't talk about that.
Well, okay, I think
I'm
we've
a
talked
great violinist, guys.
you're the best. I think we've talked about some of the functions of the instrument. Why don't we hear a little bit of it?
Sure. I don't know where my shoulder rest is, so I'm just gonna wing it
We'll
here
manage.
without one. We'll manage. There's a note
Yeah, that sure
on
is
the
coming
high
in strong.
string. I don't have room to like move here. It would help if I could play my scales well. Um,
This is practice.
um, what can I play? I don't even have anything off of the top of my head. I don't have sheet music in front of me. Oh well. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really prepare for this very well. Yeah. What was I playing the other? Yeah, that was a really unpracticed little piece of Stecchi Dane, actually. The
Oh, there we go.
regular version, the non-orchestral version, has this little violin intro that I was trying to practice. I was gonna do it for our virtual recital on Tuesday, but I actually just I got really busy and ran out of time to practice, so I
Yeah.
actually pivoted. I'm gonna do a different song, but
So yeah,
yeah.
anyone interested, make sure to check out the recording or the live performance of our recital, or live video watch along of the recital. So I noticed when you were playing that, that you were placing your fingers down on the neck on the different strings. Um, for someone who has never seen this instrument before, or never seen similar instruments before, what is that doing? How does that create different sounds out of the instrument?
We're really getting down to the the basics here.
I mean, this
Um,
is called the instrument petting zoo. Petting zoos are attended by very small children. So,
oh God. Um, how do I even explain that? I guess, like, the open string has a certain note, but then when you press it, it changes the length of the vibration, the length of the string that actually vibrates, and that creates a higher pitch, I guess. And
okay.
then the bow is made of, well, originally used to be made of horsehair. I think it's like fiberglass or something. I don't
Hmm.
even know. This is a carbon fiber bow. I don't know. It was
Yeah.
cheap. Um, yeah, and then when the fibers have rosin on it, they create friction on the strings, and that's what creates the sound.
Okay. Yeah. So
Make
yeah,
it
it's
show up.
changing the frequency. People in chat are saying it's math that your ear likes. It's all physics and stuff like that.
I know, like I feel like all of like the music theory people in the who are watching right now are just cringing.
That's okay. I'm not interviewing them, so they don't get a say. And then I had a personal question. I play guitar, and on my guitar, which is a few feet away, I have frets, sort of like different areas where if I put my finger down anywhere in that area, it's going to change the pitch to a certain note, as long as it's in tune and so on. But I don't see anything like that on your instrument. So how do you know where to place your finger to get the right note?
That's a great question.
That's why I host
Well, you
these
see,
things.
sometimes I don't, but in theory, you just know. It's pure memorization, muscle memory, as well as having a good ear. So it's a lot of practice, basically. I'm very out of practice, especially since we haven't been rehearsing, and I have very little motivation to play this instrument in particular. I play other instruments a lot more just because they're a little easier. I really should be practicing violin more, so maybe this is my motivation to practice more. Everyone in the orchestra knows of my famous little self-made meme of me looking really concerned during rehearsal because I didn't practice enough and I was having some trouble.
You've made it your Discord icon, so I've been looking at that this entire time, just in the corner.
I also made it.
The little
I also
tiny...
made it my profile picture on like everywhere that uses tasteful noodles. It's become a thing.
It's a good meme. It's a good meme.
I'm very much the kind of person who is a jack of all trades, master of none. I have a lot of interests. I have a lot of hobbies. I have a lot of instruments I like to play. So I'm very guilty of not dedicating enough time to one particular thing. But, you know, I've made peace with that. But I do need to practice more.
I mean, some of us don't even have the excuse of having multiple instruments. Some of us only have one instrument that's located literally 3 feet away, and they still don't practice it enough. And I'm not pointing fingers at any person in particular here. I'm not, placing blame at all. I have a nervous tick, and so so maybe I could ask one more question about the violin. I see you grabbed another instrument. And we already talked about the pretty large list of instruments that you do play. What made you decide to add the violin to that list of instruments?
Yeah, so my violin journey started maybe like 10 years ago-ish. I was actually at summer camp, and one of my camp counselors is a violinist, and she brought like a student violin with her so she could, like, if anyone was interested in learning a little bit, they could play around with it. And so she taught me like the bare bone basics of, and she had like, there was tapes on the violin, on the frets, or where the frets would be if it had frets, the fingering. And she made it really easy for me. And I was like, very much that like beginner's confidence where I was like, wow, I can actually make a sound. I must be so good at this instrument. And so like I got it stuck in my head, like, oh man, I really want to learn violin. And, I was asking my parents if I could get one and stuff. And then eventually they did get me one for my birthday. I think it was my 14th birthday. Yeah, and then I pretty much tried to self-teach, which was a terrible idea. I did have some lessons for like some private lessons for like a really not a very long time, but I ended up not really having time to pursue it that much more. And basically, I only really played it at that point for like maybe 2 years until I like just kind of realized, like I had that moment where like my, beginner's confidence wore off, and I started to realize that I felt like I wasn't progressing, and I kind of lost confidence with it, and I just stopped. And it sat in its case for like 5 years, literally until I joined the orchestra. I had not played. And maybe I picked it up once or twice, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool," and then I forgot about it again. And I really did not pick it up again until then. And it was crazy when I first joined, because I was like, oh my God, I literally haven't, why did I join this orchestra? I haven't touched my violin in years. And then I started practicing it. I was like, oh my God, I'm so bad. And it was a whole whirlwind of like trying to get comfortable with it again. Like I could definitely say that I'm like comfortable playing it now, but obviously there's still a lot of work to do. I was planning to start taking lessons again back in like January, and then I put it off, and then obviously that didn't happen.
Yeah, and now we can't see other people from a distance of closer than 6 feet or further.
Maybe I'll get some online lessons or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe Two-Set will teach you.
Yeah, right.
Who knows? So you grabbed another instrument. What is this instrument?
I thought I would just kind of like throw in a little ukulele for fun. So this is one of the instruments.
Are those googly eyes on the uke?
Absolutely, yes.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I have a thing with putting googly eyes on things. Anyways, yeah, this is my uke. It's cheap. It's kind of whatever, but I like playing uke sometimes just because it's just fun to play. It's easy to play. I can just pick it up. It never really gets out of tune.
Yeah. That's actually really impressive that it doesn't go out of tune.
I mean, it goes a little bit, but like I can usually pick it up and like it doesn't sound bad.
Well, all right. I would walk you through the whole thing for the instrument petting zoo of the uke.
Yeah,
but,
we don't need to do that.
Yeah, we are.
It's a tiny guitar.
Yeah, we're actually pretty close to 2 hours. So
am I gonna beat Ben's record?
I don't know. Do you want to talk about StarCraft?
Nope.
No,
absolutely not.
So yeah, thank you for showing us your violin, and thank you for the sneak peek of the ukulele. Maybe we will do a second round with some of the instrumentalists who do multiple instruments, and that would be fun. Nina, is there anything else about anything that we've talked about or anything that we haven't talked about that you want to mention briefly here at the end?
I guess I'll just plug myself that I sometimes stream on Twitch, not very often, but occasionally. It's the same handle, Tasteful Noodles. I also have like a Facebook page, same name, Tasteful Noodles. As well as an Instagram that I don't use much. So Facebook, I'm a little more active. I do cosplay. I do just random stuff, art, visual art. Sometimes I post music that I make. Sometimes I do like little SoundCloud ditties. I've got something of an online presence. So if you're interested, you can check it out.
Cool. So
very reflective of the jack of all trades thing. I can't decide on any one thing.
Well, we gotta do all the social medias. How else are you gonna reach the widest audience possible for whatever content you want to create? So everyone, go check out Tasteful Noodles on all those platforms. Yeah. You should also check out the Norwalk Gamer Symphony Orchestra. That is, of course, what this whole thing is about. We are members of this orchestra. I'm going to be back in 2 weeks to interview yet another member of the orchestra. My list of next candidates is actually, or my next interview people is actually becoming a little bit thin. So if you're in the Norwalk Gamer Symphony Orchestra and you haven't been interviewed yet, and you would like to be, please let me know. Get in contact. You could be here. This could be you. This could be your name right there. But yes, check out our website, norwalkgso.org. It's down in that corner. If you'd like to get more information about the orchestra, either if you live in the Norwalk, Connecticut area, or if you would just like to watch us online, you can go there and check out more information, find forms and such for expressing your interest to join, or watch old recordings of us that are on YouTube, or watch old episodes of the Choose Your Character series, also on YouTube. Yeah, this episode is going to be on YouTube. It'll probably be up within the next couple days. And look forward to the next episode. Nina, one last time, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being my guest. I had a great time talking with you, sharing love of Zelda and love of video game music. And thank you for sharing your violin and the sneak peek of the uke with us.
And thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
And I have been Mike, aka Gan11, and I think we're going to sign off now. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Bye.